This conference will now be recorded.
This training has been created to show you how to use SSE and the interpreter resource page to input your scheduling availability and conflicts for each scheduling round. SSE is located at schedulesource.net/enterprise/teamwork5/sign in. Go ahead and navigate there with me and then input your employee credentials here and sign in. Once you've signed in, we're going to navigate up top to the availability section. When you first click on availability, it's going to populate an availability calendar here. And then to input your availability and your preferences for scheduling, you're going to click on templates. This template that populated is my center's September 2020 scheduling round. If that is the correct template for me, but if your template pops up and it's not accurate, you can click this button to toggle down and navigate where you need to go. If there appears to be something missing, please contact your scheduling team and they'll figure out how to support you. Now that I've verified that this is the right round, I can double check by looking at the dates. We're running 9/14/2020 to 10/25/2020, which is the accurate scheduling round. Now that everything looks good and ready to go, I can start building my template. I want to build my availability based on my center's hours of operation. For the at-home team, which is open 7 days a week, we're going to select on for every single day. And then this is our availability section. For the at-home scheduling team, we want to make sure that availability remains all day because we shouldn't have ongoing recurring conflicts and there shouldn't be limited availability that goes on week to week. So we'll leave this blank for now. When we have conflicts, we'll input that in the override section, and that will be a day-by-day input. So we won't worry about that for now. What we're going to use here is our preferred section. So if I have a preferred schedule, if I'd like to work mornings or afternoons, this is where I would put my preference. So let's say I am a firefighter, full-time VI, and I have to work 34 hours pre-scheduled for the week. Let's say I normally, if I'm going to work an 8-hour shift, will take a 30-minute break. So I would like to work at 10 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. on Sunday. And then normally I like the same things on Monday, so I would do 10 a.m. again to 6:30 p.m. And then let's say Tuesday, I like to work a little bit of a shorter shift, so I like a 12:30 to 6:30. If I have specific days that I would prefer not to work, again, there's no conflict, but if I have to have 2 days off, maybe I like Wednesdays and Thursdays off, I can indicate that by leaving these days untouched and just leaving my preferences all day and my availability as all day. And then on Friday, I would indicate when I'd like to work. So let's say that's again a 10 a.m. to 6:30. And let's say Saturday, it's 8 a.m. to noon. The final thing I want to check before saving is that I've hit my weekly minimums. So if I'm working 10 to 6:30 with a half-hour break, that's 8 hours. Here I have another 8 hours. If there's no break here, I have 6 hours, another 8, and 4. So that brings me up to my 34. I'm good to go. And then I would hit save to lock that in. Now my scheduling team can see that on a regular basis, I'm available all day, but I would prefer to work during these times. How do we indicate which days we're not actually available during the round? Navigate over to overrides to input that information. Here I've put in some samples. I put in my availability and my preferred hours over here. And then I've put in a day where I prefer to be off. I have a conflict, let's say, going to be on PTO. I would put that day in as off. Let's go ahead and create a sample together. So we'll hit the add button up here on the right, and then we would select the scope as our local center. You're always going to have an option for global and local. Pick local, and then pick the date you'd like to be off. So we're in the September round, say on the 23rd. I don't want to be off completely, but I do have a conflict. Let's say it's a doctor's appointment. So I would select on for availability, and then I would put in the times that I am available. So let's pretend my appointment starts at 1 o'clock. I have to leave my house by noon. According to my office's hours of operations, let's say at home starts at 5 a.m. and I'm not available after 12 o'clock. So I am available 5 a.m. to noon. And then let's say my appointment, I assume, is going to run an hour. I'm going to come back, and then I would be available again. So let's say I would be available again starting at 3:30. And I'm available until the end of the business day. So for the at-home team, that would be 11:30 p.m. Preferred hours, let's say I would like to work this day. I'd like to work from 3:30 p.m. to 9:30. Do remember that as you're inputting all this information in your preferences on the templates space and in this override section, that you're going to use your local time. So it'll indicate here, it says times, Eastern Standard Time, US and Canada. So that's my time zone. It will convert to your time zone. Do remember that you're going to put everything in using your own time zone, and SSE will actually convert that time for your scheduling team when they look at that. So with that in mind, actually, the at-home team doesn't start until 8. So I would use that, and then we go until, what is it, 2:30 a.m. So now we have that information input. I'm available from 8:30 to noon, and then also available 3:30 until, what it did here is converted the end time to the end time at GRCC, because that's where I'm located. But if you were at the at-home team, this would input your conflict until the end of your business day. And then it has recorded as well my preferred hours. So it didn't seem to filter that to the end of my business day here in the center. That preserved the information as I wanted it. If you'd like to see all of the information captured here in your overrides, what you want to do is go back to my availability, and you can see that information on a calendar. So scroll to September, and we can see, hey, look, I'm available. I've input my preferences. If I expand my availability and click the open button, that'll take me back to the template so I can see my preferred as well as the availability. And then I can also see my limited availability. So this date, if I expand that, I'm only available from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. and from 12 to 5. I have a conflict from 8 to 10 p.m. and it indicates that within the system. If I go back to our month view, it shows here that I'm not available. So this is where I put in an override for an all-day conflict. It just grays it out completely, and our manager can see that I'm not available that day. And then this is the sample that I just did on Wednesday. I input that I was available on a limited basis from 8 a.m. to noon, and then from 3:30 to 9. So my conflict then would run from 12 to 3:30. That's our override section. If we want to put in a day where we want to be off completely, we would hit this add button, would select our date, our center, and then our date. Say it's the 14th, and then we would just leave this as off and hit save. And that will indicate no availability and no preferred shift. And that's essentially how we build our schedule for the month. Our manager can see all of our information about our conflicts, about when we would prefer to work, and about our wide range of availability. Now, what about our supplemental information? If you've seen a conflict scheduling sheet, it has an option for you to put in what your preferred breaks are, how long a shift you're willing to work, information like that. SSE won't capture that, so we've designed something on the interpreter resource page where you can input that supplemental data. Go ahead and navigate with me to the interpreter resource page. So that's intranet/departments/operations/interpreter resources/default.aspx. This is our resource page where we can access VTO requests, VET requests, input our flexibility points, and view lots of documents that the company has available for us. There's trainings, there's links to Prosperity, etc. For our scheduling piece, what we want to do is scroll down and look on the left. Right here at the bottom, we have something that says scheduling. Click on that. Now we're at our scheduling module. What we want to do is click new item and then create a profile for this round. So I'm going to title this September scheduling round. And it's going to ask me when the round starts. If I don't remember, what I can do is navigate back to teamwork and look at my template to see what date that template is scheduled to start. 9/14/2020. So select 9/14/2020 and then input any state labor laws that you have. So let's say my state doesn't require a break at all during a shift. I would leave this blank. If my state did require a break after, let's say, 5 hours of work, then I would input that information. Mine doesn't require anything, so I'll leave it blank. And then break placement. This asks, after how many hours worked do you want a break? Let's say I would like a break if I'm working more than 6 hours. I would put that here. And then it asks for my preferred break length. I prefer 60-minute breaks. It also wants to know how many hours I would be willing to work in a day. So let's say I generally don't want to work more than an 8-hour shift. I would put 8 hours here. It also asks for my minimum hours preferred. I would say I'm not willing to work for less than 3 hours at a time if I'm going to be put on the schedule. I would indicate that here. Once I have all this information input, I would hit save. And that is this scheduling round's information regarding my scheduling availability and my break preferences. Again, just to recap, we've used the template section to indicate preferred shifts. We've used the override section of SSE to indicate our conflicts. And we've used the scheduling module on the interpreter resource page to indicate supplemental break and shift information. You'll also be receiving some training guides in an email that will give you some screenshots and some step-by-steps. If you need any additional support or more information, please don't hesitate to reach out to your scheduling team and they will work with you to walk you through this process. Thanks so much.